Welcome back, y'all. It's Bianca Woke Up Late, and I'm back today with another Jubilee video. Today's video is about feminism, and from my channel, I've already spoke a little bit about feminism, and I feel like there's an actual foundation for feminism, and that's kind of what I spoke about. But in Jubilee's video, they brought different types of people with various backgrounds, that be it women, men, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, different ages, all sorts of different backgrounds who self-identify as feminists. And in here you get to see how they're similar and how they're different as feminists. Because the thing about feminist ideology is that on a basic level there's a foundation, but then there's different branches. Just kind of like any other type of philosophical way of thinking about the world, or just any idea that people have of how they deal with society at large, there are going to be differences. So today we're going to look at them. All right, let's get started.
All right, so for you, it is the ability to create life, and that's basically what makes you a woman.
Femininity and womanhood is so much more than just, getting dressed up and putting on makeup and just the way I feel. It's who I am on a biological level.
All right, so it's already a little bit spicy. Like, she's just like, my womanhood, my femininity is not a costume, is basically what she's saying. It's like, I don't just put it on. It's like fundamentally who I am, and that's how I would describe it. But also, let's not get femininity confused with feminism, because they're not the same thing, obviously.
Men can be feminist. 3,
Yes.
2, 1,
Yeah.
go.
I mean, that's an obvious yes. You don't even need to watch them answer, because that's an obvious thing, only because feminism is not just about women. Feminism is the relationship between men and women and making them equal, even with the idea of knowing that they are not the same. We know men and women are not the same, but they should have the equal opportunity to do whatever it is that they want, even if their differences change the ability to do whatever. So,
I mean, I'm wearing a hoodie that says men can be feminists too. I feel like I have to be over here.
I think most men that are feminists are usually either lazy, virtue signaling, just want to see tits, or access to easy sex.
I think it depends on your definition of feminism.
The Black girl is now buying it. She's like, men that are feminists are pandering. And I feel like that's a rough viewpoint, but she still agrees that men can be feminists. She just is more on guard about it, which is pretty much, the stance of most Black women regarding anything, really. Like, they're usually like, Even I'm like, I'm like, yeah, nah. Maybe not. I gotta question this. We gotta see what you're really about, and if you're really on code, I guess, to say.
Like modern day feminism, I would say yes. Like traditional feminism, like advocating for, traditional femininity and non-discrimination in the workplace. Like, I think those things men can agree with.
I see what you're saying when you're like, there's this performative feminism that a lot of guys do. So if a male feminist is like, oh, I only support women and it's just only about that, but he's not even talking about how feminism needs to support men or trans people or whatever, then there is a performativeness to it.
Yeah, but I think that performativeness is more like a miseducation rather than them actually trying to pander. Because if you're making it all about women, it's because you don't understand that the FEM in feminism has nothing to do with women. It's just that women are the start of this equal life. Feminism has everything to do with men and women.
Why feminist voices are too loud. 3, 2, 1,
Doesn't even mean.
go.
What does that mean?
I somewhat agree, that white feminist voices are too loud, but then I think that they become really good at using Black women or Black faces when they want to, push their movement further.
I agree that it's probably...
I mean, that's kind of true, because even in the very, very beginning, in the women's suffrage movement, like having like Sojourner Truth and the likes of those black women involved in that movement. Like the white women were like the head of the movement and they wanted to be the face of the movement, but they were way too willing to use the black women, but then put them in the back when they wanted things to go a different way. But it's just like, I don't want to necessarily say that it's louder for no reason. I feel like at the end of the day, there's just more white women than black women in the population. So if they're louder, it's because of the population size. If we're louder, it just wouldn't really make sense, because while I understand what she's saying, is like they put us in the forefront, but I feel like that's a tough one. I don't really know how else to explain that one.
Not balanced, and I think it probably needs to be more equal. I guess the reason why I'm at somewhat disagree is just because I'm hesitant to say that anyone speaking up for their views is too loud.
I think that's fine, and I can definitely see what you're saying. I just hate like when some of these movements use black women when it's convenient for them.
There's not discussion about the Latinas.
That's all movements, okay? And I get what she's saying, but that's all movements, is that it feels like black women are used for the convenience and the appearance of strength, because that's kind of what we always get told, that we're like strong, and aggressive, whatever.
Immigrant, how they get treated on the feminist movement. It's always about either the pro-choice side or something else that it's more interesting to white.
When you think of feminism, you usually think of a white lady. And I think that's still perpetuated, even though there'd be like a lot of black women behind the scenes doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and often are in a lot of civil rights movements. White women have certain rights they need through feminism as other people, but they're just always taken more seriously by everyone.
I'll read off a list of public figures, and
I
you'll
have no idea
go to your
about that
left
part.
if you believe the person to be a feminist, or the right if you don't think they're a feminist. Kim Kardashian.
I wouldn't say that she isn't a feminist. I don't think that's her number one thing.
She went from
Kim is definitely a feminist, bro. Come on, like she is the purporter of like being, scantily clad on the internet and making that okay. And obviously she has multiple marriages, so she exudes her womanhood and femininity. And then she also she owns her own business, works for herself. She took the time out to attempt to become a lawyer. Like, literally anything that she wants to do, she literally goes out and does it, even if it doesn't appear to be traditional. Like, she still does traditional things like marriage and being a wife, but she also does all those new things that are new opportunities for women. So she's definitely a feminist.
doing her show and the whole like sex scandal thing to now she's working in law and civil rights, and she's done the whole family thing. Ultimately, I think that Kim Kardashian is a woman that has done what she's wanted to do.
Amy Coney Barrett.
Amy Coney Barrett, in my opinion, is like the epitome of a feminist. She's literally like a Supreme Court justice in like the highest court of the land. And she totally disproves the narrative that women have to choose between having a career and a family.
I don't really agree with her a lot on her political stances, but I think more so as just being a role model for women to be on a level of the Supreme Court where it's primarily dominated by men.
J.K. Rowling.
3 years ago, I would have said, yeah.
Unpopular opinion, but yes, J.K. Rowling is technically a feminist, and she describes herself as a feminist. But people are gonna be mad though. They're gonna be mad.
Yes, and there's still a lot of reasons I would. She was a single mom, she wrote all of the books, she became a billionaire. The reason I would say kind of no now is her just kind of weird anti-trans zealotry she's gotten involved.
But that's the thing, being anti-trans doesn't make you not a feminist. It just makes you anti-trans. And I don't even think she's technically anti-trans. I think she has some other thing going on. But that doesn't disqualify you from being a feminist. In fact, what you're seeing here is them not liking her particular brand of feminism, which is, I believe, considered a turf, whereas trans exclusionary radical feminists, it's the thing that Dave Chappelle got in trouble for. So let's just keep moving.
That kind of undercuts a lot of her other feminist stuff.
I mean, I disagree that just for the fact that she expresses her own opinions, that now people like literally crucified her and really want to like put her under and undermine everything she has done, you know?
It's just she has such a big platform that when you're talking like this very extreme stuff about a marginalized group, that's really the issue.
Why should women like with a platform be forced to align with the mainstream narrative of what it means to be a woman and a feminist?
That is an excellent question. That is a excellent question, and it's like not even a question that is even needs to be as specific as women on the topic of women, but just in general, like when it comes to like celebrities and people with public platforms and spaces, it's like there's like a rule book of things you can't say, you can't have certain opinions and feelings, and it's like very controlling of your thoughts. And it's like if you read like 1984, it's like you could believe whatever you want on the inside, but you cannot share it with anyone outside because you'll get in trouble. Like we now have new rules of what is allowed, even if it doesn't align with how you feel or whatever the case. If it makes someone else feel a way, then you're not allowed to say it. And that's basically what she's asking about. Why does a woman not have the right to express how she feels about womanhood just because it doesn't align with society's new narrative of what womanhood is?
Like, why can't her own personal journey be enough?
It really comes down to not that it's an opinion, it's that she's spreading a lot of dangerous misinformation.
But based on what, though? Because you don't agree with it?
No, it's scientific facts. Like, she's just talking about stuff that's incorrect. And her ideas about trans men have affected legislation.
But what are the things that she's saying? Like, when I feel like when people get into like this very narrow like debate, if you guys are on opposite sides, someone needs to bring the information to the table. That's why I feel like the Black woman is asking, like, okay, so, but what are these misinformations based on? What is the misinformation that she's sharing? And this person is like, it's just not true. But what's not true? You have to answer the question, because now we have no clarification. We're just going back and forth, and we're literally talking about nothing. You gotta answer the question. Like, you have to say what it is
that harms trans men getting the resources they need.
Trans women are women. 3.
Also, wait. Did we just say that J.K. Rowling, who's not an American citizen, is affecting the laws passed in Congress that affect trans people? I don't know about the validity of that one. That just sounds like a stretch. Because as far as I know, J.K. Rowling is like from England, like she's British or something. Like, does she live here? Is she in California? I don't know, but she's definitely not American.
2, 1.
Or a politician.
I think we're all just positioned here based on our political beliefs and as for how we see the LGBTQ.
I mean, I think it's also split between...
This is actually crazy, right? Not that it's crazy, but it's so extreme when you see like the floor, like how much of a contrast there is between how the men feel about it and how the women feel about it. The question is, are trans women women? All the self-identified women are like, no. And all the self-identified men are like, yes. Does no one see like the awkwardness of that whole thing? Is like men are, I don't know, bro. Like that's a huge split. There's like almost nobody in the middle. There's nobody in the middle at all.
Between all the men are on that side and all the women are on this side.
Right.
I know, being a woman, that there are certain things that we have to deal with as women that people who are not, biologically women don't have to deal with. I mean, we have to like deal with having our periods and go through that really awkward stage when we're 13, and people who are, trans women don't have to go through that.
Trans women live their entire lives as women. They don't turn it off. It's not something that they're turning off, and then to come up to them and say, oh yeah, I see you doing this, but you're not a woman. You know, it's kind of insulting.
How do you live your life as a woman? Because every single time somebody says that, they name the most stereotypical things. It's like,
well, already they're kind of talking about two different things, because as the white woman stated, if we're being politically correct, she's stating something that is unique to being a female. Like, of the female species, she's talking about those specific experiences that no other sex could experience. So she starts there, and then the black guy, he's like, well, you know, trans women are women their whole lives. So, you know, that's his statement. And now the black woman is asking him, is that, like, what does that mean though? And now this man, who's a self-identified man, is now having to explain, he has to explain to her what it means to be a woman. Do you not see the issue? Like, this man has to now explain to this woman what it means to be a woman, because he just said that trans women have been women, and like, it's
putting on a dress, putting on makeup. It's biological. I was
So
born
all
a
it is
woman.
is
I
biological.
can't be a man.
So
I
if
can't
it's,
be
if
a
it's
man no matter how
100%
much I try. I
biological
can't be you.
and it's just, you know, chromosomes and that's it.
Are the differences just chromosomes, just having children? That's like so hurtful and discriminatory against women, because
So it seems like the women a little bit feel like their womanhood is attached to their sex. That's how they feel, and they also, so on the flip side, they feel like for manhood, it's attached to the man's sex. So therefore, if she's a woman, she can never be a man. Based on what the black woman said, that she feels like she can never be a man because she's a woman. That's how she feels.
femininity and womanhood is so much more than just, you know, getting dressed up and putting on makeup and just the way I feel. It's who I am on a biological level.
Right, so for you, it is the ability to create life, and that's basically what makes you a woman.
What makes you a man? Or would you consider yourself a man? I probably should.
Yeah,
ask, 'cause
I was born a man. I behave as a man. I carry
So
myself
what would I
through
have
society
to do to
as
be
a man.
like you?
So,
I want to be a man now.
So we can both agree that our society has things that men generally do, things that women generally do, right? If you start to...
So those are stereotypes, sir. Like, yes, they're real, because there are things that men generally do and there are things that women generally do, but I feel like those things are usually like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like, it's done by society. I don't know the word right now.
fall on one side of the spectrum versus the other side of the spectrum, then you're going to be treated as that gender.
I think it's a little obscure that we're looking at it as such a basic requirement.
I don't
More
know
so
about that
that,
one.
I mean, humans are much more evolved than any other animal, so why are we still using...
I'm sorry. I don't think that what he said really makes sense, because I feel like, okay, if there's things that men generally do and there's things that women generally do, if a woman decides to do construction, that she'll be treated like a man. I don't really have any basis for that. I don't see that. That doesn't make sense to me.
Just the requirement of, well, if that person has a penis, he's a male, or that person has a vagina, they're a female.
I think you're a masculine woman or a feminine man. That doesn't make you that gender. And to try to like deny just basic biological facts, we all learn this in high school. Like, let's stop acting like it's something new and different now because it's like the hip thing to say.
I think there's like
She would be considered like very, very like conservative. They would probably call her like a TERF or something. And for her, she seems really passionate about the idea that what it is that she's learned in school is her truth. Like, that's her facts and how she views the world through. And she doesn't sound like she's here for any of the changes. She's like, I'm not trying to hear about how y'all feel. We are talking about facts, and facts don't care about your feelings. That's how she sounded out. And I feel like in a situation, absolutely nobody's wrong. Absolutely nobody's wrong.
a lot of conflating of being female versus being a woman. Being female is chromosomal, it's what you're born as. being a woman is a societal construct. They can align, like yours obviously all align. Like you pointed over here, you're like, all the men over here. The first 30 years of my life, I was a woman. I transitioned. It's a disconnect with what you're born as and what you feel you should
So
be.
gender dysphoria.
Yes.
Okay, I can believe that. 100% could.
So what he just said is kind of confusing, and I feel like it goes against what the black guy said earlier, because earlier the black guy said that trans women are women their entire lives, right? And then that on the flip side, it would make sense that trans men are men their entire lives, but then this trans man just said, hey, I was a woman for the first 30 years of my life. So those two don't actually agree on that, even though they're on the same side of things. And that's what I mean by this is an interesting video, because it seems like everyone has their own ideas. There is like no solid like agreement on anything regarding when it comes to sex and gender or anything like that. It's actually very interesting. So for having the trans man identify as a woman for 30 years and then just I don't know, like I don't know. It makes it confusing, because then the assumption I guess was already that if you're trans is that you already never aligned, that existed in your mind the entire time, that you don't align with the societal constructs. But then it's like that, I guess that changed.
If it was just like, I just wanted to be a masculine woman, then sure, that's easy to do. But that didn't work. I'm not gonna say I'm male. I wasn't born with XY. That'll never change. And no trans person will ever tell you they're biologically born that way, because if anyone knows anything about biology, it's trans people. That's why they have to get hormones and do all this other stuff. And it doesn't take away your womanhood if someone else is a different type of woman. It's a different experience that shouldn't make you feel less of a woman if they're around, or vice versa.
Do you all feel?
I mean, that's true. Like, it shouldn't take away from your womanhood if someone else decides to call themselves a woman or identifies as a woman. It shouldn't take away from you. I think what some women go through is that there's, in some spaces, obviously not this one, this Jubilee one, in some spaces it looks like some people are taking the word woman and trying to redefine it, I guess, and say, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like they're trying to redefine it, and it goes against what women who have traditionally already had their definition of what womanhood was. It goes against what they're saying. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't have the best vernacular for this subject, but I do find the video interesting.
So, like, feminist movement should be fighting for trans women within that movement?
I mean, it should be fighting for everyone's genders, whether they're trans women, trans men, cis women, cis men, or non-binary people. That's just part of feminism.
I don't think so. I think it defeats the entire.
Yo, she's not with anything. She's just like, nope. She's actually extremely conservative, and I'm not saying I agree with her views, but I give her credit for how outspoken and on, like, she's not trying to like soften the blow or anything like that. And it's not that often, like, people, we get a bad rap as like black women for like being super duper liberal and we're okay with everything. And it's like, she's like, no. I don't agree. I'm saying it loud and proud, and I'm backing it up. This doesn't make sense to me. Therefore, I'm gonna let y'all know. We're not about to do this. That's how she sounds. She's serious.
Every feminist should be pro-choice. 3, 2, 1, go.
I consider myself to be a pro-life feminist, and I think
That was
that
rough.
the idea that we can tell women that they can't identify as feminists unless they say that they're pro-choice goes totally against everything that feminism stands for.
I agree with that, and I think there's actually something that's beautiful about womanhood and women in general, and something that kind of shows ways that modern feminism.
See, this looks bad, but it's because they fundamentally understand the question. It's because they understand the question. Like, if feminism in its foundation means that you get to be free and have choices, right? Then it shouldn't be a caveat to what can be called a feminist, because like we said, all these people consider themselves feminists, but they don't all agree on everything. Therefore, you can't make reproductive choices and say everyone that falls in this umbrella must follow this. Like, this is the rules. Like, you gotta be able to have choices. That's the whole point.
Has kind of been a little exclusionary, because women come from all different backgrounds and thought processes, and I think we should support the freedom of choice, the freedom of speech, regardless of the lifestyle that that woman wants to choose.
If you personally feel you're pro-life, that's fine. Feminism as a movement should be pro-choice to allow anyone to choose whatever path they want to have, whether they want to have children or not have children or have abortions or whatever. But if feminism is pro-life, then you've blocked one group of people from choosing whether they want to have abortions or their own family planning.
So this person just didn't understand the question. Because the question is, should every feminist be pro-choice? Or the whole point of the question is, should everyone have to think the same? That's the question. It's not that being pro-life, the question isn't should feminism be pro-life or should feminism be pro-choice. The question is, should every feminist be pro-choice? And the answer is no. Every feminist should be able to decide on their own and have their own options. So if they are pro-choice, then they can decide whether to have a child or not. If they're pro-life, then they can decide to not have an abortion. That is the most options. This person is giving you one option, which is pro-choice. So I feel like they may have just fundamentally misunderstood the question, which happens sometimes. Some people just don't have the same type of English.
The pushback that I would just love to give is, I believe that abortion is wildly discriminatory against women and against people with disabilities. Baby girls are aborted at a higher rate, which is so sexist. And so I truly don't think that you can be a feminist who is pro-choice, because these are discriminatory practices.
So I am pro-choice. I feel like somebody should have whatever type of choice that they want to make. They should have an equal say as far as, hey, this is my body, I want to be able to have an abortion, or just as equally, I want to say, I'm going to have this baby. So, and I do believe it's 100% up to the woman. A feminist should probably be more aligned with giving someone their own choice.
Menstrual products
My man is
should be
smart.
free.
He knows what he's talking about.
3, 2, 1, go.
He understood the question. That's all I gotta say.
Just being able to
Menstrual
provide,
products should be
for
free.
example, on the low-income school, there's a lot of girls that cannot afford them, and they're ashamed to ask for it.
I mean, I personally believe that anything that you didn't, I guess, ask for, like menstrual cycles, or even, if we get into healthcare, I think that should all be added on.
I believe that everyone.
Andy is a smart guy. That's a good point. I feel like that's usually the point that that's the conclusion most people get to, is that, women don't have control over that part of their life. So the fact that they have to pay something additional outside of the other half of society, where the other half of society never has to worry about this, is kind of unfair in a way. It should just be free, but, it gets complicated, taxes and whatnot. If anything, menstrual products should be tax-free or covered by healthcare, because it is part of health. Like, I think he mentioned healthcare.
Should be compensated for their labor, and I believe that creating and producing menstrual products, it's a service, and that people should get paid.
Well, nobody's saying that they won't get paid because, like you said, you were born a woman. You didn't ask to have periods, so now you have to go out and pay taxes on, you have to pay more taxes than I do
Exactly.
because I don't have to buy
They don't have
Exactly.
tampons
tampons,
or
yeah.
whatever, yeah.
So, like, I get it. She's very conservative, the white woman. She's very conservative, and she's thinking in a business sense, like, oh, it shouldn't be free. But I don't think she really thought that deeply about it. There are plenty of things that are purchased by the government or by medical wholesale. Your business will still be able to operate. You just wouldn't be selling to individuals through individual stores. Or you could still do individuals through individual stores, and like women just have a card that pays, puts $30 a month on your menstrual card. I don't know. Like, it'll still get paid for. Like, it's not like people will be producing the product for free and then the workers will be working for free. No. Literally, everyone will get their money, and women just won't have to add that to their list of costs as a woman. Or, yeah, I'm not even gonna get into it as a woman.
Is this a pandemic of women like bleeding through their clothes or something? Because I've worked with low-income families.
Yo, she
This
does
is
not
never an
bleed.
issue I've ever heard other than on social media. Now, are there instances?
Okay, here's the thing. She doesn't experience everyone's experience. She's like, oh, I never heard this. Again, I'm with her and her strong opinions, but the thing is, because she has such strong opinions, I'm not surprised that no one has ever come to her about that type of situation. Like, I wouldn't come to you. And tell you I have a problem, because you're gonna be like, who does that? Like, you're gonna have bad attitude, and no. I wouldn't ask her either. That's probably why she's never experienced it, because no one's ever asked her.
Or may there be segments in people's lives where they need like things, or they need help, or they need the community to get behind them? Absolutely. But I don't think it's this huge crisis that everybody is making it out to be. I just have not seen it.
Every woman
It's not a
should be
crisis.
a feminist.
We're just worried about fairness.
2, 1, go.
Once again, I feel like that kind of goes against everything that feminism stands for by
Have a
saying
choice.
that a woman has to think a certain way.
Every woman should be a feminist instead of every woman has to be a feminist. That's kind of why I went to the strongly agree. Yes, you should be a
Understood the
feminist
question.
if you're a woman
Had its own
because you should want
interpretation.
equal rights.
Going back, I think people have really misinterpreted the word feminism, but most women should be feminist, but they are. I think to me they are. I don't know any woman that.
I feel like a lot of people will be divided on this question simply because people have, like she said just now, Myra, like that people have a fundamental misunderstanding of what feminism actually is. So they feel like, oh, if a woman is a feminist, she won't be like a traditional housewife. You can be a feminist and a traditional housewife. Those two things actually don't have to compete. Why? Because feminism is just a political practice in order to have options, so that traditional housewife or traditional woman is not your only option, that you don't just have to grow up and just be that. It also gives you the option that if you don't want to be that, or you haven't found a husband and made children, that you can also seek a career or a lifestyle that is not just traditional life.
It's not feminist. They don't call themselves it because of the extreme feminism. Like, for example, I like to serve my husband. That's something I like. That doesn't make me not a feminist. That's who I am.
Exactly.
He likes to do other things, like change my tires. I will never do that. That doesn't mean I'm not a feminist,
She's
and
on point.
that is
Exactly,
officially
she's on
a
point.
wrap, you guys.
Oh, wow. Can't put it.
That was interesting. It was a good conversation. They could have got some more hard-hitting questions, but they tried. You know what I'm saying? They definitely tried out here. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for watching. It's Bianca Woke Up Late. And maybe share in the comments below about how you guys feel about this video on feminism, about any of the topics that they discussed, including pads and tampons. Like, anything you want to talk about, just leave a comment below and leave a like. Thank you for watching, y'all. Peace.